on WhatsApp saying if we play tennis, they want proof that I play. So there will be some videos that have to be taken because this person does not believe that I play tennis. So there you go. I will prove it that I do. All right, moving on with our conversation. If you have any questions, as I said earlier, please get them in. And if we don't get to them on the show, don't worry. I can always forward them to Rose, and then she can have the right person maybe address that particular question for you. Chief of Staff, Office of the Chief Justice, Rose Wachuka, in studio with us this morning, talking about social transformation through justice. And we have discussed a number of key issues that have changed or are in the process of transformation and change during the 2 years of our Chief Justice, Martha Koome. But we obviously still have a long road ahead of us, and as I said, a broken or fragmented system, but that's maybe my perception of the whole thing. And I'm sure there was some good, but maybe the accessibility, and you spoke about this, if I walk into a court system type situation and I need some sort of service, or if I go online, I need some sort of answer, I think the general perception before the last 2 years was I'm not going to get the good service, I'm not going to get the answer in time, and therefore you end up with cases that sit in court for 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years, and people have kind of just said, I mean, that's the Kenyan judiciary, you know what I mean? But that perception is changing. There needs to be more conversations around it, obviously, so that people can realize that you guys are doing some very, very hard, for lack of a better term, donkey work in the background to make sure that these stacks of paperwork are just getting less and less and less. And when Martha Koome was here, she was saying that one of the bigger issues was, and I think you alluded to this last time you were here as well, Rose, one of the bigger issues was the backlog of cases and the years, unacceptable amount of years, 2, 3, 5, 10, longer, of cases of people that have kind of just said, I mean, what's the point? So with that conversation around, if we can solve the problem outside of the court system, then the court system can focus on the cases that really need its attention. Is that sort of now the mantra going forward?
Yes, without taking away the right to come to court, of course, because that's the reason why the judiciary was established. And a lot of change happens in dialogue, right? To understand what is the role of the judiciary, what is the role of individuals as far as justice is concerned, and what is the role of the legal fraternity as well. And the legal fraternity includes lawyers, paralegals, community paralegals, and other people who support this access. And if you think about justice as an atom, just reduce it to its smallest part. It really is the way we live with each other every day. And so Chief Justice came into office to 700,000 cases pending. And she enforced the directive that we shouldn't have a case in the trial court for more than 3 years, but also shouldn't have a case in the Court of Appeal or on appeal for more than 1 year. And to support the realization of that directive, we've seen the Judicial Service Commission hire 20 more judges. We have seen, more the expansion of the magistracy with 60 more magistrates to just make sure that the manpower to handle the backlog is enhanced. But we're also seeing amazing, and if you look at the SOJA report, the State of the Judiciary report that has all the statistics, we have data at the center. So that data is telling us these are the trends. This is what is happening. This is what's happening to civil cases. This is what's happening to criminal cases. These are the ways that we need to address the criminal justice system, the civil justice system, child justice. And so data has come in as a great enabler to focus, because a lot of the time to delve into deep work, Carl Newport's deep work, to delve into deep work, you really must understand which issues you're going deep in, and that has been the support that we understand why these cases are held up, and then we work to make sure that we can loosen those barriers to make sure that those cases are moving a lot faster.
And again, that's the key, right? It's almost like fine-tuning the system so this is the case, this is the problem, this is, and then kind of work backwards on how you can resolve it, I would imagine.
Yeah, and in a very consultative, very collaborative way, because one institution cannot. And so it has to be a system-wide engagement, which is why we're saying, people-centered justice. And just so to sort of define people-centered justice, we're focusing on 4 investments. And the first investment is actually to understand what are the game-changing initiatives that we need to scale. If you go to engineer law courts today, and you are above the age of 70, or you are a nursing mother, or you are a person living with disability, you get a special service access card. That special service access card means that you can get to the front of the queue in the registry. It also means that your matter on the cause list gets called first. And we are now also in conversation with our partners, because we also want to make sure that any person who comes to court is a nursing mother, you have the facilities to do that. But also, if you spend the entire day all the way to lunchtime in court, that we can actually also provide a meal that we can
It's
feed
amazing. And this is the softening of the judiciary more than anything else, right?
It's human justice.
Yes,
It's human justice. And so we are mapping those. And the beauty is these directives and these innovations are not coming from the Office of the Chief Justice. They're actually coming from courts themselves. So that special service card has taken to many other court stations. You have other court stations that actually are coding matters. And so if you see a red file, you know that's a murder case. You see green files, you know what cases those are. And so when a magistrate is on the bench and you look at the cases and you're seeing a red file, you know there's a murder case on the cause list, and so you sort of call that matter first. So it's a lot. And also the Chief Justice has admitted more advocates over the last 2 years than there were by the time she herself got admitted. Right. It's been over 2,600 young advocates. And so what are these young advocates doing? The Chief Justice has started the Young Advocates Mentorship Program, and for it follow the launch again on the 13th. We have a lunch for young advocates, because the Chief Justice has instructed us, if a young advocate can actually become a pro bono lawyer for the judiciary, and we find a way of facilitating their services, say 30,000 shillings a case, the day you get admitted, you can take 3 cases per month and you're able to make 90,000 Kenya shillings, but also pay attention to 3 cases that require attention. And the Chief Justice has expanded pro bono services beyond murder cases to also charges of robbery with violence, capital offenses.
But that's amazing. So what we're looking for is people that have the time and the energy and the focus to really take. It's about care, right? And,
it's about care.
And making sure that justice is served in that respect. Now, online violence becoming prominent, and UN Women Database estimates that 28% of women in Africa have experienced online violence. How does the current justice setup in Kenya address that issue?
The digital age is really moving fast, Fareed. I mean, just from a theoretical perspective, since the advent of the digital age, we are seeing, the offenses sort of widen even further. And you will remember the disagreement that was between the Senate and the National Assembly on the Cyber Crimes Bill of 2018, and the Court of Appeal upholding that bill in a case in 2019 actually. And so we have laws that are responding to the evolution of the digital age, and unfortunately that women suffer a lot of cyberbullying and cybercrime, and so the justice system is always ready to take in, of course, these crimes and these grievances. But as a justice system and as a country, and the regulators of the space, there is a very delicate line to be walked between enforcement and also uphold the freedom of expression. And I think that's what Parliament is now working on, to make sure that there is legislation because then if there's legislation, the judiciary can enforce that legislation, and Kenyans actually have recourse to that. But I do agree that Kenya is the ranked fourth in Africa with the highest digital penetration at about 29%. And these issues will keep evolving. And so what that means is our legislative apparatus has to also, remain firmly aware of that changing landscape. And we continue to prepare judges and judicial officers on how to deal with those cases when they come to court.
And I think it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, right? Is what the needs of the justice system, forcing a change in legislation, or is the change in legislation changing the way justice is administered? So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. But
I think it can't be linear anymore.
Right. So it's case by case,
it
right?
Is,
For instance, we need legislation to change so the justice system will have more control over this online space, because right now every day things are changing.
Yeah.
In terms of digitization, you talked about data and the access to data. In terms of digitization, and we did speak about this before, but let's just get back into it now. That is a massive part of the way the world is going.
Yes.
Data gathering, access to that data. Me as a consumer of the data and also a provider of the data, do I have access to data within the court system as well? Is all this part of the plan to make a more transparent system within judiciary?
Several judiciaries have actually, several chief justices have got in touch with our chief justice to share the formula that we use to prepare the State of the Judiciary report. And if you've looked at the State of the Judiciary report, and they are all available on the Judiciary website, we go to painstaking depth on data, pending cases, trends where this county, we even analyze pending data per county. And so that's very open and sort of very, very transparent. And the SOJA is released around November every year. And so that's one area where we have done very, very well. We have a dedicated directorate of performance management and which incorporates data. We are now incorporating sort of algorithms that can tell us, or elements that can tell us, that can gender data. How are women interacting with the justice system? How many are filing cases? We are also incorporating child-specific data. And that's because if we are to deploy the finite resources that we have for maximum efficiency, then we need to know where these problems are. And there are ways to do that. Using data, but also making sure that the data protection policy of the judiciary, because there is one, is absolutely upheld, and that has been the case.
And access to that data also for me as a consumer is vitally important as well, right? I mean, we know journalists would love to have a place where they can just log into a system and search someone's name and see if there's a case out there that is, but that's a different thing altogether. The 2 years of success that our Chief Justice has had, and it really has been a success. And it's not my opinion. It is fact. We've seen a change in our justice system, in the accessibility of the judiciary that we've never seen in this country before. And you're talking about 60 plus years since independence, and then in 2 years, all the stuff that went kind of under the radar is kind of being addressed. And when you came in here, you talked about these 700,000 outstanding cases, which you guys are working so hard to lessen. What is the ultimate goal and plan? And I know this is a very generalized question, but maybe you could pick 4 or 5 specific points to the role that the Chief Justice and your office is playing in the judiciary here in Kenya.
It's all in starch. So social transformation through access to justice. And so we ask ourselves, ourselves every day, we ask ourselves, what does the Constitution require us to do? The Constitution provides certain promises. And one of the promises of the Constitution is a society that upholds social justice. And what social justice means is that it's justice that is by people, for people, with people, through people. And the judiciary, as the custodian of the Constitution, should bring the realization of those promises to life. And so the judiciary has to open up to the character of the Constitution. And the character of the Constitution is very transformative, very transformational. And so beyond the various targets, to make sure that access to justice is available for all Kenyans, it is really just about making sure that the role of the judiciary, as conceived by the Constitution, to drive social transformation and to make sure that that social transformation is derived through access to justice, not just formal justice, but access to justice in the way that justice is defined. Mm-hmm. That's the end goal. And the end goal means that Kenyans are empowered in terms of their legal rights and obligations, and our institutions are strong and respond to those needs.
Right, and then that becomes a safe place for problems that I or my family or community cannot solve, that I know if I bring it to the court system, the justice system here in Kenya, I know that I'll get a result. I think That's key.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so key.
And in that long term, if we look at the work you guys have done, it's probably not that far away for you guys to reach those goals. There's obviously a lot of challenges along the way, right? Mm-hmm. And if we look at when Justice Kome came into to her role, she must have looked at her docket and been like, am I going to be able to? Okay, she probably is, because she's super confident. But it must have been quite intimidating. Some of the challenges along the way. What have been some of the challenges to this? Has there been resistance to change?
First of all, I think that the world will look back during the years that CJ Kome will have served and say, here was a woman, mm-hmm. And the Chief Justice has been a judge for many, many years and has been an agent of justice throughout her career. And so to have a strong leader in charge of an institution and for the first time in history to say, we are doing this together through shared leadership. Mm-hmm. That I am the Chief Justice and my office is in Nairobi, but you're the Chief Justice of your court in Garsen. You're the Chief Justice of your court in Marimanti. You're the Chief Justice of your court in Kahawa. And for judicial officers to find that empowerment, and for citizens to understand that if I walk into any judicial establishment, any courtroom, that they get the same attention as they would from the Chief Justice, that has been life-changing. And I don't think that we understand that enough, and we'll continue to really talk about how the ways in which that has changed. And of course there are challenges. Globalization is bringing many challenges along. And locally as well, we still are working very, very hard to reduce those distances. We are working very, very hard to make sure that legal representation and access to legal information is provided. We are working very, very hard to make sure that there is adequate financing and resourcing. Working very hard to make sure that cases can be heard real time, to put in the ICT software and hardware that's required to support just the sheer number of cases that are coming to the judiciary. But more importantly, to maintain and continue to build a strong institution that is accountable to the Constitution and to the people. And for the Chief Justice, and I've worked with her for the last 2 years, that it's not an intimidating act, because this is something that is within reach. And I think that if we continue to prioritize, if we continue to stay focused, and if we continue to apply the law of incremental results, that if I am here today, I do one thing, that I will compound that tomorrow to another thing, and the next day, and the next day. And so the idea and what we remember, and you asked me about how busy my schedule is, it is just about remembering that it is, what we are cathedral builders, and cathedrals are not built in one generation. That if we can attain one thing today and build on it tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and recognize that all these are sacrifices by judges, judicial officers, judiciary staff, Kenyans, to work together in this era of justice, then we can start to be kinder to ourselves and to the things that we have realized, and to continue being inspired to build even more. And so that's the refreshing energy that the Chief Justice brings to the entire justice system, and that's why we are seeing the change that we are seeing, because we are all feeling confident to sit in the spaces that we are sitting and to facilitate justice in the ways that we are.
And I think, you talk about the Chief Justice, but she's obviously surrounded herself with some incredible people as well. And I think from what I've seen, that whether you were all handpicked by her, or this was a different way of you guys becoming part of this incredible movement, I think it's all of you, and she definitely has that ability, from what I'm hearing, to empower people to do their job. Like you said, whether it's Garcen or Kahawa, whatever the case may be, they're empowered now to do their job without this micromanaging and making sure things are going, exactly the way someone wants it. And it seems like a shared vision. It's not her vision, but a shared vision.
It is a shared vision, very much so, and owned, not just by people in the judiciary, but by Kenyans, because it's about recognizing that this justice is a shared responsibility, and then being the champion for that.
Amazing.
And being the general that we all follow.
Amazing. Rose, thank you so much for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure again, and I'll see you
love
soon.
Capito, and I love coming.
See you on the tennis court.
See you on the tennis court.
All right, we take a quick break, come back with the news.
Bring together a